going to do some additional help with substitution and elimination. I will do 2 problems from your quiz review from last week, and I'm going to do 2 problems right off your test review. So I got no excuse not to get those wrong. Starting with number 2 on your quiz review. Doesn't matter which one is by itself, whether you have X or Y. What we're looking for is where are the dots, where the 2 lines cross and make that dot. So in this case, whenever we do our first step, regardless of whether it's substitution or elimination, we do that first step. So in this case, since X equals Y minus 2, I can replace this X with something that's equal from the other equation. So I have 3 times the quantity Y minus 2. And then I subtract the Y, and that equals 6. So notice I put this in parentheses, so now I have to do my distributive property. So I have 3y minus 6 minus y equals 6. And I show all these steps because this is a part of the process. 2y minus 6 equals 6. Add 6. 2y equals 12. Divide by 2. Y equals 6. So all those steps you need to show your work. You can't just go from here and then tell me that y equals 6. I need to see all the steps in between. Okay, and the reason we're doing that is to make sure we don't have kids, sorry, I'll say it, make sure we don't have kids cheating. You got to go through the steps and show me every single step. So now that I know that y equals 6, that was my first step. My second step, I'm going to plug it in, and I have x equals y minus 2. So x equals 6 minus 2. X equals 4. So I get 4 comma 6 as my answer. And then last, I'll check it in the other equation. I have 3 times x minus y equals 6. 3 times 4 minus 6. So it's 12 minus 6. And it checks. Okay, so all those are the 4 steps that we want you to show every time. I'll go down and do an elimination one. Down here, so I'm still on the quiz review. One more elimination problem. In this one here, same thing. After we do our first step, just like with substitution, we need to get rid of one of the variables, just like it says in eliminate. So in this case, a lot of different things you could do. I think the simplest thing to do is to multiply by the 2, and that's going to give you negative 10y. So you got to kind of look ahead here. So I multiply these by 2, and then I'm going to rewrite this equation underneath. And I get 2 times 2x is 4x minus 10y equals 22. So now I have these 10s that are opposite, 10y and negative 10y. So now when I add everything together on my first step here, I now have, so I add them together and I get 8x equals 40 divided by 8, x equals 5. My second step, I plug that 5 back in. So I have 2 times 5 minus 5y equals 11. So 10 minus 5y equals 11. We're going to subtract 10 from both sides. Negative 5y equals 1. Divide by negative 5. And I'll just leave that as a decimal. Negative 1/5. 3, write your ordered pair. 5, negative 1/5. And 4, check your work. So I have 4 times 5 plus 10 times negative 1/5. Fifth. I said fifth and wrote a half. And that equals 18. 4 times 5 is 20. Negative 1/5 of 10. So that's 10 over 1 times negative 1 over 5. So that's negative 10 over 5, which is negative 2. So I have 10 down here. 10 times negative 1/5 equals negative 2. 20 minus 2. 18 equals 18. It checks. Continuing on with the actual test review, I'm going to do numbers 1 and number 3. So this one here, now my substitution goes up top here, because when I substitute, I need to substitute this y up here in the top row for something that's equivalent from the second equation. So now I have 8x minus 2 times the quantity, 3x minus 10, that'll equal 8. Now that I've done that first step, I'm down to just x's. When I do my distributive property, be careful of your negatives, because that's a negative 2. That's how we treat that. So negative 2 times 3x is 6x, and negative 2 times negative 10 is a positive 20. So it becomes 2x plus 20 equals 8. Subtract my 20. 2x equals negative 12. And then I divide by 2. X equals negative 6. Plug that back in up here. So now I have 8. So on number 2, we do 8 times negative 6 minus 2y equals 8. So negative 48 minus 2y equals 8. Add 48 to both sides. Negative 2y equals 56. A little bit of red flag here, something that we got a big answer. You guys know from a lot of the problems we've done, we typically don't get a negative 28 as an answer. So hopefully it checks. And so we come over here and we write our answer. Our answer is negative 6, negative 28. And we'll see if it checks. Because if not, I will be starting this video over and you guys won't know I made this mistake. But I think it's going to check here. So we use the second equation. Negative 28 equals 3 times negative 6 minus 10. Negative 28 equals negative 18 minus 10, and yes, it does. Check. Okay, and one more. I picked number 3 because number 3 is pretty difficult. The reason this one's difficult is because you can't multiply just one of these by something. You got to multiply both. So we're going to end up with some pretty big numbers. So I could multiply the top by 10, and that would make it pretty simple. So if I multiplied this top by 10 and the bottom by 3, then that would give me 30x on top and negative 30x on bottom. So that's definitely one way you could do it. The other way you could do it, if you wanted to eliminate your y's, you would multiply the top row by 6 and the bottom row by 9, and you would get 54y on top and negative 54y on bottom. I'm going to stick with this 10 and 3 because it's easy to multiply by 10 and 3 is a small number. So when I multiply by 10, everything just adds a 0. So now I have 30x plus 90y equals 330. And on the bottom, I have negative 30x minus 18y equals negative 42. So this is where you would want to grab a calculator. But we end up with 72y equals 288. And I divide both sides by 72. Y equals 4. So that was my first step. Second step, find the other variable. 3x plus 9 times 4 equals 33. So we have 3x plus 36. So when I subtract 36, 3x equals negative 3. Divide by 3, x equals negative 1. So third, write an ordered pair answer. Negative 1 comma 4. And then we check it. So number 4, we check, we have negative 10 times negative 1, because that replaces the x, minus 6 times our y, which is 4, and that better equal negative 14. 10 minus 24 equals negative 14. It does. Check. So there's 4 questions to kind of help you out. Hopefully that does spur you on to a little bit of success in some of the other ones. If you notice right here, my y's are opposite, so you just combine right away, and that should give you 5x equals 10. These ones here, they're already opposite. This one here, you're going to have to do the same thing, but I would recommend you multiply one of the top or bottoms by a negative number. So for example, you could multiply this by negative 8 and this one by 5. So a little bit tougher, and there is one tough one on the test with some bigger numbers. If you just have a calculator available, you should be okay. If you did this, you would get negative 40x on top, positive 40x on bottom, and that would let you eliminate your x's. That's all for today.